Before they broke up, Jason Momoa and Lisa Bonet's love story seemed unbreakable. Fans were shocked and wondered what went wrong behind closed doors. Now, after a year of silence, Mamoa finally talks about their breakup and her problems. Untold efforts and a shocking discovery that changes everything. Join us as we talk about the heartbreaking event that caused them to split up. From the moment they met, Jason Momoa and Lisa Bonet's relationship seemed like something out of a Hollywood fairy tale. It was passionate, intense, and easy to break up. Jason was mesmerized and sure Lisa was the woman he had been waiting for his whole life. But as we all know, fairy tales don't always end happily ever after. Even the deepest love can fall apart and admiration can turn into something much more complicated. In 2005, their story began in a jazz club in Los Angeles, where fate seemed to be working things out over time. Jason, who was still trying to make it as an actor in Hollywood, had admired Lisa for a long time. As a child, he had watched her unforgettable performance as Denise Huxell on The Cosby Show and was completely mesmerized by her beauty. That admiration never went away, and he joked with his friends for years that he would marry her one day. But when he finally met Lisa, he knew he had to stand out. He was completely mesmerized, but was Lisa just as mesmerized? Even though they had a strong attraction, they were from very different worlds. Lisa was 12 years old and had already been through deep love, sadness, and becoming a mother. She was calm, collected, and grounded. On the other hand, Jason was a free spirit who was full of energy, humor, and an almost childlike enthusiasm. But there was something about him that drew her in. Jason was also mesmerized by Lisa's intelligence and calm demeanor, which he had admired from afar but hadn't fully understood until he met her. From the start, their connection was electric. Lisa's calm and stable energy was the perfect balance for Jason's wild and adventurous spirit. This created a relationship full of passion, excitement, and a deep emotional bond. Their love grew stronger over time. When their first daughter Lola was born in 2007, it was clear that this wasn't just a one-night stand, they were building a family based on trust, respect, and unconditional love. When their son Nooa Wolf was born in 2008, their devotion to each other grew even stronger. To the outside world, their bond seemed unbreakable, but as life so often shows, things aren't always what they seem. When Jason and Lisa finally got married in 2017 in a small, intimate ceremony, the world saw it as the perfect ending to a fairy tale. But behind the gushy headlines and swoon-worthy social media posts, the truth was that cracks in their love story had been forming for years. Jason used to think Lisa would always be his, but the relationship was starting to fall apart in small ways that were about to become obvious. Issues arise in every love story, but for Jason Momoa and Lisa Bonnet, the once unbreakable bond between them wasn't just a whisper, it was real and they couldn't ignore the things that used to hold them together. Inseparable started to pull them apart. The real question wasn't what went wrong, but when did Jason start looking at Lisa differently? For years, they seemed to be the perfect Hollywood power couple, balancing family life and careers with ease. But as Jason's star rose to unimaginable heights, landing him blockbuster hits and status, Lisa's world moved in the opposite direction. She had already lived through the chaos of fame and found comfort in a quieter, more grounded life. While Jason chased the spotlight, Lisa chose stability and peace, choosing to focus on her family instead of the never-ending demands of Hollywood. The man she fell in love with was now living out his dreams, and that reality looked nothing like the life she had imagined. Jason's meteoric rise to international fame with Aquaman meant long filming schedules, worldwide premieres, and a never-ending parade of red carpets. With every new role and every flashing camera, he was pulled further and further away from the home they had built together. Lisa, who had already been through Hollywood's chaos when she was younger, didn't want to go back to that unending world. She wanted privacy, quiet moments, and the comforting stability of their family life in Los Angeles. At first, the distance wasn't a problem, it was emotional. Jason was constantly surrounded by a fast-paced world of new co-stars, powerful industry figures, and glamorous social circles. Lisa, on the other hand, was stuck and waiting for the man who used to belong to her completely. One thing that made their already unstable marriage even worse was Lisa's having a close relationship with her ex-husband Lenny Kravitz. Jason had always been in favor of them co-parenting, but people close to him say that Lenny's constant presence started to bother him. Lisa and Lenny had a deep emotional connection that never really went away, and no matter how hard Jason tried to ignore it, Lisa's past was always there. Even though Jason had publicly praised Lenny in interviews, insiders say he secretly struggled with feeling like an outsider in his own marriage. He had worked hard to build a life with Lisa, but deep down he couldn't get rid of the feeling that he wasn't the one for her, that his relationship with Lisa would never compare to her relationship with Lenny. Then, in a fit of rage, Jason said something that he would later regret. Claims Jason said to himself, "She's disgusting," but was he really talking about Lisa or was it about something else? Was it an honest look into his own anger and sadness when he realized he couldn't ignore the tension between them anymore? Their once peaceful parenting relationship only got worse from there. The clash of styles got worse than ever. Lisa, who was strict and organized, wanted their kids to have security and routine, but Jason, on the other hand, liked things to be more casual, adventurous, and free-spirited. What used to be the perfect balance between them is now a constant source of conflict that is pushing them farther apart. Lisa liked routines and quiet time to think, while Jason, who was always looking for new things and movement, felt suffocated. The emotional distance between them grew so great that no amount of effort could bring them back together. By the time they made their split public, the truth had been known for years. After 12 years together and 4 years of marriage, Jason had finally come to terms with something that broke his heart. Their love, which had once seemed unbreakable, had turned into a burden that neither of them could handle any longer. Their once unbreakable bond was gone. Jason and Lisa shocked everyone with a heartfelt post on social media that said they had been quietly split up since October 2020. Fans thought they were the perfect couple, so this news came as a shock. The news hit them like a punch in the gut. How could two people who seemed so devoted and in sync suddenly drift apart? But this wasn't a messy, scandal-filled breakup. There were no public scandals or accusations, just the quiet, painful truth that their lives had taken different paths and there was no turning back. "We have all felt the squeeze and changes of these transformative times," they wrote, hints at the intense struggles that had reshaped not only their relationship but also the world around them. Many people were confused. Was this really about personal growth, or had years of silent tension finally reached an irreversible breaking point? What shocked fans even more was the warmth that remained between them. No anger, no accusations, just a painful realization that love alone wasn't enough to keep them together. Still, one thing was certain, their children, Lola and Noa Wolf, would always come first. They promised to remain devoted co-parents, making sure a stable loving environment despite the changes in their lives. It wasn't a scandalous breakup, but that didn't make it any less heartbreaking for the public. The mystery only grew. Why did they decide to walk away after surviving the highs and lows of Hollywood and growing together for years? Jason wouldn't say a word, keeping the real reason for their breakup a secret. But the truth, the weight of their past, and the quiet tensions that had been building for years couldn't stay buried forever. The answers wouldn't come overnight. It took Jason a whole year to finally break his silence and reveal the truth that had been hidden behind their seemingly graceful farewell. When he did, it wasn't just about why they broke up, it was about the exact moment he knew their marriage was doomed. By January 2023, the love story that had seemed unbreakable was over. Jason and Lisa's divorce was finalized in a Los Angeles courtroom, ending one of Hollywood's most admired relationships in peace. There were no messy scandals or nasty court battles, just a sad end to the life they had built together. The divorce papers, which were made public, said they had irreconcilable differences. A phrase that's often used to hide deeper, unspoken problems. But for Jason and Lisa, those words weren't just legalese, they were a painful truth that went beyond the courts. Before anyone knew it, Jason and Lisa had been living separate lives for more than 2 years. By the time they officially filed for divorce, everything was already set. They had joint custody of their children Lola and Noa Wolf, and their assets were split fairly. There were no last-minute arguments or long court battles, just a quiet agreement between two people who used to love each other deeply. What really stood out was how surprisingly smoothly their divorce went. Most Hollywood breakups end in court battles and nasty public feuds. Jason and Lisa's divorce wasn't about anger or revenge. Instead, it was a rare display of grace, maturity, and mutual respect. Neither Jason nor Lisa asked for alimony or child support, and they both waived any financial claims. This was clear proof that they had already settled everything behind closed doors. Their assets and income were split fairly, avoiding the stress and chaos of a long court battle. There were no mean charges or violent fights. Just two people quietly accepting that their once great love was over. People in the know quickly praised their maturity, calling it one of the classiest breakups in Hollywood in years. This is in contrast to many other famous divorces, which become public spectacles. Jason and Lisa didn't go down that path. Instead, they left with honor, showing that not every love story has to end badly. They've always been private, and they've done everything they can to keep their personal lives private. A close friend told me that their main concern has always been their children, making sure they were safe and happy. It was the same with their divorce. They wanted to keep things as easy as possible for the kids. At the heart of their choice was a strong promise to always be there for their kids. No matter how much their lives were changing, Lola and Noa Wolf, one thing was for sure: Lola and Noa Wolf would never be in the middle. Jason and Lisa made it clear that co-parenting would be their top priority. They agreed on joint legal and physical custody, which meant that even though their marriage was over, they would still be strong parents. It was a quiet, unspoken promise to protect their kids from the chaos that often follows celebrity divorces, even when the parents get along. Feelings don't just go away when you make deals and say goodbyes with respect. Jason was struggling with something much more painful that he couldn't ignore forever. While everyone else saw two mature adults going their separate ways with grace, Jason knew that something had slipped through his fingers along the way, and when he was finally ready to admit it, the world would see that this breakup wasn't as easy as it seemed for months. Jason didn't say anything, so everyone was left to guess. Rumors spread quickly. Was it cheating? 2 different jobs and a secret betrayal? The news was crazy, but Jason wasn't ready to talk until now. After the divorce, he was at a crossroads, professionally successful and heavy with the weight of a love he never really expected to lose. At first, he avoided questions by smiling and giving vague, practiced answers. But as time went on, the truth inside him became too heavy to ignore, and when he finally spoke a year later, in a tell-all interview, he told a story that was much more complicated than anyone could have imagined. Jason finally broke his silence, revealing the hidden cracks that had slowly destroyed his marriage. The truth was painful but also freeing. For years, he had hidden his struggles behind the glamour of success, ignoring the emotional toll it had taken. But now he was done pretending. He was ready to face what had really happened. Not long ago, I was having trouble finding work. Now my career is booming, he said, his voice steady but heavy with reflection. There's a certain pride that comes with success, but what no one tells you is that it comes at a price. His face showed that he was thinking deeply. This wasn't just about his broken marriage. Fame had taken everything away from him. Lisa didn't want to follow me from set to set. She loves living in La. Jason admits that his voice was calm, but he waited for the truth to come out. He said, "Take away the Hollywood illusion. This wasn't about scandal or betrayal. It was about 2 people who just wanted different things." People who were close to the couple said that the tension between them had been growing for years. The physical distance was one thing, but the mental gap was something that couldn't be ignored. They were living in 2 different worlds, and no amount of love could bring them together. After years of trying to get parts, Jason was just another actor who was having a hard time. Trying to make it in Hollywood, but then Aquaman came out and his whole life changed overnight. He became a global sensation. And was constantly traveling, making deals, and being in the media. He had finally made it, but at what cost? He told me that the person who had always been by my side, the one who had been there for me through the hardest times, was being left behind. The more I chased success, the further I drifted away from her. His voice carried a deep sadness as he thought about the many times Lisa had chosen the stability of their Los Angeles home while he went to another filming location. He was running towards fame, achievement, and the next big role, but he was leaving behind the life they had built together. The real problem wasn't just the distance, he admitted. It was how success had changed me. I changed into someone I didn't know, and I lost the one person who had always really understood me. Lisa, on the other hand, never needed the flashing lights or constant attention. She thrived in stillness and life's quiet moments at home. But Jason was stuck in a world that never stopped wanting more. Lisa never cared about fame or money. He told her he wanted peace. She wasn't looking for fame or money, she was looking for something different and quieter. The truth crept in slowly like a shadow across their once perfect love story. Their fire and water, their need for excitement and security, had moved too far apart, putting them emotionally at odds with each other. Jason finally said what a lot of people had been thinking: we had grown apart. It wasn't because of deception or a big fight. He said that it was an undeniable fact that our lives were going in different directions and that no amount of love could change that. He said that we were just two people going in different directions and that it wasn't anyone's fault. That's what happens when life pulls you in different directions. And just when it looked like he had said everything, Jason dropped a bombshell that made the internet go crazy. At some point, you start to see things differently. There were times when I looked at her and thought she was disgusting. The room went silent, and the interviewer was shocked. The words sounded cold and even cruel, but before they could settle, Jason quickly clarified, not in the way people think. He shook his head and said, I mean, we became strangers. The way we used to admire and respect each other faded, and once that admiration is gone, how do you pretend it's still there? He could no longer see the woman he had once called the love of his life. She didn't look the same in his eyes, and what hurt him the most was that he knew she felt the same way. Jason and Lisa's children were a surprise source of strength for them. Even though they were no longer together, their jobs as parents became more important than ever to them. Lola and Noa Wolf weren't just their top concern, they were what held everything together during this very rough time. Jason had always been very devoted to his family, and even when his marriage fell apart, he never wavered in interviews or public appearances about how much he loved his kids. He told them openly how much they meant to him and called them his lifeline during the worst times of his life. For Lisa, motherhood had always been an inspiration. She worked hard to make sure her kids felt safe, secure, and emotionally supported during the separation. Even when she was going through hard times herself, she stayed strong, shielding her kids from any unnecessary stress and giving them the stability they needed. Her dedication to family remained unwavering. Jason made every effort to be there for his kids, even though he had a busy job and traveled a lot. Whether it was a quiet day at home or a special trip together, he made sure they always knew they came first. Jason was a dedicated father to Lola and Noa Wolf, and he also did everything he could to help Zoe Kravitz, Lisa's older daughter from a previous marriage. Even though Jason wasn't married to Lisa anymore, he always supported Zoe and was proud of her accomplishments, showing that his love for family went beyond names and labels. Jason and Lisa were no longer together, but they would always be family, no matter how much their lives changed. It became a rare Hollywood example of a breakup when they were able to co-parent with such grace and mutual respect. Done right, their relationship may have ended, but it never really went away, it just changed. Even though their lives would go in different ways, their love for their children would keep them together forever. As time goes on, fans can't help but wonder, could Jason and Lisa ever get back together? Their love story wasn't like any Hollywood ones, it had a lot of history behind it. They had special moments together that made them one of the most loved couples in the IND. Jason's life is now a whirlwind of new opportunities, non-stop projects and thrilling adventures, yet no matter how much he moves forward there's always a quiet acknowledgement of his past with Lisa, a lingering presence that leaves people questioning whether their love story is really over or if fate is just waiting for the perfect moment to bring them back together. Lisa too has embraced a new chapter, finding peace in the life she's built. But just like Jason, the bond they once shared still lingers in the background. The possibility of a reconciliation all the more intriguing. Even though Jason and Lisa have chosen separate paths, their bond is anything but forgotten. Their love for their children remains their greatest connection, and their ability to co-parent with such respect and harmony proves just how deep their relationship truly runs. The admiration between them hasn't disappeared. It has simply evolved. There's an unspoken understanding between them, something that transcends romance, and it's that connection, their history, their shared love for their kids, and the respect they still hold for each other that keeps fans wondering, could they ever find their way back to each other? But the lingering question remains, could time and personal growth eventually lead them back to the love they once had? Or have they truly closed that chapter for good? For now there are no definite answers, only endless possibilities. Their future is uncertain, and only time will tell if Jason and Lisa's love story is over or if fate has one more surprise in store for them. What do you think? Could they get back together, or is their love story over for good? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.